Well, troubles with Postbank's grant payment systems has affected thousands of recipients, and it's been blamed on a new payment switch which failed to automatically reverse monies from declined transactions back into the accounts of beneficiaries, meaning over 500,000 transactions having to be manually reversed. At least 6.5 million people received their grants through Postbank. Chair of Social Security Systems Administration and Management Studies at the University of Witwatersrand, Professor Alex van Heever joins us now to talk about this. Prof, good evening to you and welcome. You know, it is heartbreaking when you think of the faces behind this failure, the old people, the children and the disabled who are among those unable to get this lifeline on time. Parliament being told the systems glitch was also caused by problematic switch software. As you listen to the reasons given, do you buy that?
I have a lot of concerns because the sort of technical glitches that we're experiencing now are probably the kinds of things that should be resolved through proper implementation and stress testing over a long period of time. So these kind of crises are often an outcome of weak systems overall. So there is an issue to raise about whether or not there are good systems in place and good oversight of what is occurring within the bank. These are highly technical issues, but we shouldn't be experiencing these kinds of problems for such a crucial state function.
And, you know, you've been watching the space for a long time. We also know that this payment chaos issue with SASSA is not new. What is your theory on why it always seems to end up this way? One of the reasons we heard in Parliament was around the procurement process potentially not being followed correctly or not being followed correctly, and some questions about the service provider here. But it always seems to pivot around the same issue.
So these kinds of issues arise because of wider governance concerns. So if I had to kind of indicate where a problem like this will occur is in the strategizing of the organization, and it's sort of the implementation of business processes and technical requirements to achieve these objectives. You require a very astute board, you require a very astute chief executive, and very competent teams behind the implementation of these processes. And when you see this kind of failure, it suggests that there is a misalignment along in the organization. And I think that the problem is that we've seen this in a number of state institutions, where this kind of failure to kind of operationalize things competently appears to be systemic. So I think that the question that now arises is really how to rectify on a medium-term basis and on a long-term basis the manner in which boards are appointed, chief executives are appointed, how they're held to account in a professional way. And I think that there is a considerable interference at a political level in these organizations because they are public organizations. They're treated a bit like state organizations, and the governance structure is sometimes compromised through decisions about appointments and the manner in which they are held to account and supervised. So I think that I think that this is potentially a long-term issue that needs to be resolved. It's not just an overnight question and one single technical glitch.
I mean, it's astonishing to hear reports that the CEO didn't even seem to know that there was going to be a different, change in the system implementation. Now, of course, tonight we've just announced that the Postbank no longer has a board of directors. Maybe this is an opportunity, Prof, to do the thing that you're saying, appoint a board that meets all of those requirements in order to focus on the task at hand. The one thing that seems to be missing, and I'd love your thoughts on this, is, perhaps a design thinking aspect or application around this. For how do you service people correctly, effectively, and competently in a sustainable way? Bearing in mind that they're all over the country in different types of environments, creating one system that can work and meet them at the point of their need.
Well, part of the approach should be to develop a kind of a resilient approach in which you've got more than one option, more than one bank that offers the kind of the backbone to the overall set of transactions. And a lot of people are on alternative reimbursement structures. They receive it into other bank accounts. So the question really is whether the Postbank component of this is really up to the task. And I think there's value in getting the Postbank to perform its task correctly, but you can't put so many people at risk. So the having backup systems, understanding where the problems lie are critical. But for a banking institution, a financial institution, these technical issues really require very, very good systems and people in charge of them. And now you mentioned the removal of the board. Removal of an entire board overnight can compromise an organization because you lose a lot of institutional memory. It's unclear how much of the current problems reside in the board that was only relatively recently appointed. But when you create robust boards and specific supervisory board structures over organizations like this, they have to be very carefully selected. And it's not just about just getting smart people in. They've got to have a real understanding of this kind of organization, and they've got to be able to work with the chief executive and the executive team in implementing strategies, etc. It's not just about holding them to account. It's about the strategizing process itself. And if you have this kind of technical glitch, it suggests that there are weaknesses in how they are strategizing and how they are executing their strategies. These can only be corrected through leadership structures and building them and deepening them. So I think that this is a long-standing question. You can't solve it overnight, but it is very problematic that it has happened at all.
Thank you so much for talking to us tonight. We appreciate your time.